greatest movie ever based on a video game. So hello everyone here, I will talk about the Mario movie, right? And I'm a little late to the party, but you know, it released yesterday in Japan, right? Or today now, depending on your time zone, whatever, when it is released. So, what you gonna do, you know? I'm a full-on weeb, not even... But anyway, this movie is amazing, right? And I say the only issue I have with the movie is that it's too short, right? You know? But because I'm kind of late in the review, and obviously I love the movie, it's like a talented movie. It is, I mean, literally the best movie I've ever seen based on a video game, right? Straight up, yeah. Maybe not like some animes or whatever, but like an actual, you know, big screen movie, right? So, I want to go in a little bit more talking about, I can really see though, why the critics, right, hated it. I made a video about it a few weeks ago, right? How it's so hated by all everyone in Hollywood or whatever. And I can really see why. So I think I'm going to talk about that more, honestly. Because I think that's a little more interesting. Coming in here and saying, I love the movie. Because everyone loves the movie, right? Subscribe, and let's talk about it. But first of all, I mean, genuinely, honestly, right? It was too short. That's the only issue you have, because now you watch the movie and you are, you know, my attention, oh, it's already over? Basically, yeah, you can't, something is constantly happening, you know, it's great action, it's really fun, and just constantly new stuff happening, right? So you really feel that the time just flies by immediately. That's one amazing thing. But the biggest thing with the movie, right, is just all the details, all the references and so on, right? So it's a lot of that stuff there, right? And it's just, you know, good fun, right? The jokes works, the action is great and so on. But what I want to talk about here, right, is I can really see why the critics hate this, right? Because it is straight up the best movie based on a video game, right? Because it respects its source material, right? So in the beginning of the movie, they're in New York, right, Brooklyn, and they're gonna play this, you know, oh, here's the Mario Brothers, and they have a commercial and so on, right? But what's really fun with this scene, is again, why they respect the source material, is because this is based, right, on the classic live-action Mario show. That's what I grew up in, right? And as a kid, I watched the show every week, right? Love this show, and like the whole movie is just filled with stuff like this, right? I'm gonna comment to it later, but the whole movie just has so many references to either, you know, video game songs, right? Different stages of the game, you know, different details of game mechanics and everything, right? But immediately the movie shows you, and I want to really stress on this point, right? This is why I can see why the critics, and lack of better words today, that woke people ever hate it, right? Because this movie actually respects what it's a game about, right? I remember I was reading those reviews in my early video before I watched the movie then, but they were like, oh, it's like so much based on the game. Yeah, it is respecting its source material. It's respecting the old good live action show. I mean, they have the goddamn DK rap in the movie, you know. Story you, and that was, of course, my favorite scene when Donkey Kong enters and like, yeah, look at my pecs, right? But that's the thing. This movie is filled to the brim with references to the gaming and respecting the characters, right? You know, the DK is like, look at my muscle, right? There is the Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, right? So we see all the Kong characters, the Crank is there, right? And it's just all of that stuff, right? That makes you love the movie. But the problem, right, for the critics, the typical, you know, Hollywood today, right, is that they are obsessed with, you know, shitting. They're just shitting on, compared to something like Velma, right, you know? Velma is like one of the, if not the worst show ever made, right? And Velma, whole thing of Velma, right, is just to make a big ass dump, right, on Scooby-Doo, right, you know? And on the writer, and the characters, it's making fun of them. And like, it's like written people that hate, right? For people that hate the song player. With these things, with people that kind of love it, they're like, of course you're gonna have the DK rap song, and the coach is like, yeah, and everyone's like, woo, and Diddy can't stop dancing, and like, stop it, Diddy. He's like, oh, but I'm so into it, you know. That's why the movie is so great, because I never seen a video game movie, right, that truly is like, oh, we really respect it. And that's how you feel how Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto, so on, has really been involved in making this game, right? Or sorry, this movie, I mean, because it really feels like, no, we're gonna have everything fitting into, you know, what is based on the game, right? And they even have newer stuff as well, right? For example, Donkey Kong and Mario, right? They're stuck in this fish, I'm not supposed to spoil it too much, and then they're using one of his barrel, like a rocket barrel, that's part of the Tropical Thunder games, right? So they have the old game stuff, right, from the 80s, into modern stuff, you know, the Toad's puzzle game, and so on, right? So it's a massive thing, right? And it is like a love letter to, you know, all the games, and it really cares about every goddamn reference. Except when Donkey fights Mario, right? They have this scene. They have like I guess a Super Smash Bros. Melee fight, right, kind of thing. But it also goes into like sometimes it's the barrel throwing, right? Like the classic Donkey Kong, Jumpman game, right? Throwing the barrel with Daisy and so on. So it's mixing all that, right? And it's just a really good movie in that sense, right? Absolutely. Because again, I really want to emphasize this thing, but like, it's respecting what it's based on, right? And it sounds silly for me to say it here, right? But I think that, and this is of course why I think the movie is breaking so many records too, because yeah, is it the first? And this is just released in Japan, right? So we have to make even more money. But just thinking about that, this is the first movie I've seen in a long time, based on a video game where it's like, oh yeah, they're just actually taking it seriously. The character looks like the characters, and and the act of the characters mostly, and the powers and the mechanics and so on are great and so on. It really is, right? But anyway, we talk about more stuff in the movie itself. Like we see Donkey Kong when he's flexing up, right? And we see Diddy like, "You go, bro!" and so yeah, that kind of stuff, right? And honestly, the only thing I didn't like in the movie is that those characters didn't have enough screen time, because we see Diddy, Dixie, Crank, etc. And I think they could have been they're playable right in the games, right? They could have had a little bit more of the fight, right? A little bit of that. Diddy Kong Racing, after one of my favorite games, right? I think everyone has the 64 loves Diddy Kong Racing. It's an improved Mario Kart, right? And the Kong saw the guys building on the carts in this universe, in the movie universe. And I wish that Diddy Kong was like, oh yeah, this is my thing, I expected, honestly. I'm watching it here, right? And I was like, okay, now it's kart stage, of course, Diddy Kong is reported it. And no. So, I would say it wasn't the perfect movie because I felt there were some references that could have been done better. I think there's someone to go into like, let's make a Luigi spin or something. No, I'd rather see them do. I'd rather see them build like that, Next movie, Zelda. Maybe after that, Metroid. I'd rather see them do that, right? And certainly you need like a Donkey Kong spin-off though, certainly. But that's like the only one I would rather care about these characters. I don't want them to do like spin-off of the current characters here. No, I'd rather see like the different universes, so to speak, right? And then maybe eventually, of course, have them all meet up, right? Because it is like a fighting the glove. Earlier, again here, right? The movie is really great because, I watch so much anime, right? Play so many games. I read so many books. I watch so many movies. I am quite a nerd, right, so to speak. And the issue then, to some extent, is that because I watch so much stuff, right, I used to get kind of bored, honestly, right? I watch stuff and I'm like, whatever. So even if I go to the theaters, right, many movies doesn't keep my attention, right? And you can say that, you have like low, odd, or something. No. But it's mostly that most movies are pretty boring, right? Most movies aren't that good, okay? They aren't that exciting, right? I'm just like, whatever. Like, you can have this family here, this figure here. But this movie really had me, like, it really is like my childhood, coming to life here. I was like this, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, oh my god, reference, this thing, more to, that's this thing, that's not go, video, this thing, Mario Kart, yeah, this thing. I was like that in the reference standpoint. Nintendo gameplay is about the actual entertainment, right? The purest form of game. And this movie, again, really is like my childhood come to life, right? Because they're focusing on what makes the game good, right? The essential part of what makes a Nintendo game good. So this also makes the movie really interesting in that sense. Because I never felt that I've seen a gaming movie really capture, right, the essential of what game it is based on, right, like this movie. That's really interesting. But guys, please subscribe and have a great day.